And then you've got these words like anatta, sunya, emptiness, sunyata, nibbana, words that have no definition. They all, one of my favorite quotes is from, there's the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. And so I started contemplating this. Can I imagine, what is the unborn? If something unborn, can I imagine it? Can I create some kind of image of unborn, uncreated, unformed? And then you observe, mindfulness observes, my mind goes blank. I can't create an image. The closest you can is like a zero or something. But that's symbolic, you see. So, just being able to observe the unborn, uncreated, it stops your thinking mind, because you can't conceive it. You can't create it into any form. It's formless. But it's certainly recognizable to be aware of, like when you stop trying to figure it out, and then there's just awareness that has no form to it. But it's certainly conscious and intelligent. It's not, you don't become a zombie or a ghost. And you're alert. Your mind is bright rather than dull and stupid. So then, and then it goes, there's the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. If there was not, there'd be no escape from the born, the created, the formed, the conditioned. There'd be no way out of it. We're stuck in the samsara. No possible way to get out of it. It's the hopeless despair of repeating the same things over and over again. And then it goes on, because there is the unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned, there is the escape from the born, the created, the formed, the conditioned. Well, those two, like you're taking the unborn and born, or created, uncreated, and created, that helps you to discern it here, what's unborn, uncreated, and then your thinking mind packs up. So then you can often think, oh, rubbish, I can't ignore it, just makes me confused. Or, if you bear with that, eventually you're kind of sustaining this awareness around not knowing anything. And if you're patient with that, it will lead you to a very blissful state. It's unborn, uncreated. You didn't create bliss out of some practice or some kind of intentional. Because you can't imagine. You might have views about it, but you can't create this unborn. But you can recognize it, and this is what mindfulness allows us to do. And this is the whole kind of magnificent of Buddha's teaching. It's so simple, so accurate, but it goes by. People don't get it because we're very complicated. We're complicated personalities, and emotional needs, and karmas, and all that. So it is to me very impressive that you're all here, willing to do this. Something in you has awakened to this Dhamma, and otherwise you wouldn't be here. And then that is something to trust. That's what brings you to this monastery. And because it's not an easy life, and you've got to put up with all kinds of irritating frustrations, but it is a form that is deliberately constructed to help us. And it holds, I tended to be very all like idealistic and be scattered all over, and just get so distracted and involved and caught up into so many options and opportunities that I realized early on I needed to be in a container that kept me from just going out all the time. And of course, here in Thailand, when I met Rinpoche, this is what I can, this will probably help me, because otherwise, if I just try to do this all on my own, I'll probably just get, the whole habit tendency was indulgence and distraction, and then so living within this strict Vinaya structure, I didn't find it easy, because I don't, emotionally I was used to doing what I want, but suddenly you're kind of held down and you can't do that anymore. But the point is, you observe that frustration that comes from having something you hit against. You have to either you leave and say to hell with it, or you just conform within the structure, and it's a moral structure, so it's not meant to be a kind of tyranny or you're not asked to do harmful acts or violent acts. It's supposed to not act on those emotions. So now, like in my monastic life, it's kind of holding within that. Now it's like it's just second nature. It's not like I'm trying to keep the rules and uptight around it and worry, but it's just like, it's the way I live. It's just ordinary. And then it gives you a sense of it because it is a kind of blessing to us, to the world. You really, like living in Europe for so long. A Buddhist monk from Thailand going off and living in London sounds impossible. From the way I would think, because it's not a Buddhist country, a big international city and so forth. But in all those years, I've never had any. There's never been any great problem from the external, from the government or the people there. And the four requisites have been abundant, and then the respect that people have, even though a lot of people don't know what you are, but there is a sense of this form. This samana form has maybe it's an archetype of sorts. It has a resonating quality to it. So even in the countries like England or Italy or Portugal, you still see this kind of, even though people may not know what you are or what you're doing, they do have this sense of you're some kind of spiritual person or pilgrim on the path, and there are ways of trying to define you. But it's usually in a way that is quite respectful. So, like this discerning the unborn and the born, it's then the thinking mind wants to say, oh, the unborn is better than the born. Then we get into, that's a criticism, isn't it? It's better. That's a critical part. Then you're thinking again. But the discerning, and this mindfulness, then allows us to discern the unborn is like this, and the born is like this. Then we can use the born, the created the form, in terms of, skillful means, rather than just blind reactivity, habitual reactions to life. So Lumpur Cha, when he saw this, then he used to wonder why he started Wat Pah Po. He could have. My idea was that, if I had this insight, I would be off in some peaceful place. I don't want to bother with all this society and monks and nuns and all the problems that arise and and then but I thought Ajahn Chah, out of compassion, was establishing monasteries where I could go and listen and train with him. He didn't need it for himself, but it was, just using the remainder of his life and and the wisdom that he has to help other people to see and in Thailand, where it is where Buddhism is so, it's a dominant religion and it's part of a culture. So Lumpur Cha was trying to educate Thai people and say, look, you've got this precision tool that you're not using properly. So he used to scold the Thais all the time about all their superstitions and things and assumptions they have around Buddhism and so forth. And this is what I found so inspiring was here was somebody who actually was informing people in this country what actually is the Buddhist teaching and what is not. And he wasn't saying that you go to hell if you don't, if you believe in ghosts and all this. And this is saying that this is, to try to awaken people to discerning the value of Buddhism, because like an ancient religion like this gets, over years becomes, so many additions, it kind of absorbs other things, and so much of it becomes even non-Buddhist. And that's what Buddhadasa in Sumedho, same thing. When I was a young monk, these were two powerful teachers in Thailand that were really clear and saying, this is the path, this is what the Buddha taught. The rest might be cultural or superstition, animism, or whatever. But he was very, very direct and oftentimes very fierce with people, about that. Because he was out of compassion to get people to appreciate what they have rather than just, I'm a Buddhist and not really see what that, the gift that they have, that maybe they ignore and don't see it as just part of a cultural habit. And that's what, because Thai Buddhism really, because Thailand was never colonized by European country, so Thai Buddhism, when I first came to Thailand, it was, Westerners just didn't know much about it, and then because it had never been colonized, they never, hardly any monks could speak English or things like this. So Westerner, non-Thai people coming into Thailand found it quite difficult, because where Burma was the most logical place to go back in 1960, because the Burmese had been British colony. There's a lot of cultural exchange, and a lot of people spoke English in Burma, and there were meditation teachers, and Sri Lanka also. And but when I came to Thailand, and Burma was shut off, you couldn't go there anymore. I would have gone to Burma actually, but the government there, became a real tyranny, and then you couldn't. I think they'd give you a visa for a week back in 1966. That was it. So Thailand, was the logical place to go. But hardly any Westerners knew anything about Thai Buddhism then, which has changed now. And so what impressed me was you heard certain expatriate people living in Bangkok having views and opinions about Thai Buddhism, but from what I could tell, even before I understood the Thai language, you have these teachers like Buddhadasa or Luang Por Chah, and they were teaching the real, the direct approach. No mucking about, it was. And so, what more could you ask? They didn't ask you to believe in all the cultural conditions and that. So it was easy, I found it easy to adapt on that level because I wasn't, dealing with a lot of cultural things that didn't mean anything to me. I was dealing with suffering and its causes and the sensation all the time in my life at Watapo. And then I could use the traditional form and the Thai culture, as it affected me. I could be aware of it rather than just dismiss it or blindly follow, or, just go along with everything without question or forming my own opinions. The direction was always observing rather than just putting up with things or going along with things or feeling you had to conform to be accepted and things like that. You can feel much more sense of this is something I can do, something of value.
Well, speaking of anatta and letting go and these sorts of things, can you give some words or suggestions about self-discipline within that, without getting, too worried about I really got to be a good chanter, I really got to learn my robe right. I see there's some importance there, but maybe you could talk about the importance of self-discipline as the path to not self.
Well, the important thing is to be aware of how you take the idea of self-discipline can be a form of tyranny. I should be, and one can be caught up in ideas. I'm not disciplined enough, or you're trying too hard to be perfect, whatever. Or you've got views of, that's rubbish, it's not important, just mindfulness is enough, so that's the other extreme. So then but my suggestion is observe. Whether, you think it's rubbish, it's like this, or you think, it's obsessive and makes you more tense and worried about everything, then, you're observing this is grasping this by becoming obsessed with the form. But like in the early years, you have to learn the form so you can let it go. You have to, you can't just you learn how to the structure around you. That takes a certain amount of determination and discipline and surrender to it. But that's not the end. It's merely you getting so that it becomes something you can let go of because you've internalized it rather than just grasp the external form. Then you become more aware of how how the thing and how Theravada Buddhism affects you, or Vinaya, or there's various views and interpretations about what Buddha really taught, or how you should keep the Vinaya and things like this. So you come across, in your life, there's so many views and opinions. But the important thing is to observe. Like I determined, I was just going to do it the way they do Wadva poem, because that seemed to, that's what everybody agreed to there. That's what Ajahn encouraged in the monks. So do it that way. And so then I developed that. But then other people come along and saying, "Oh, I really said you shouldn't do this, should do that," and then you get into arguments about it and doubts. But that's not the point, to get it perfect, but to get used to the container, so that I call it like internalizing it. Like when you learn to play a musical instrument, you have to go through boring practice routines, da 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 over and over. Or learning to dance, you got to repeat these steps and over till they internalize, they come naturally. And so so then after a while they just become the way you don't have to think about what string do I pluck. It just, on a deeper level and just on the material level. And that comes through practice, then, rather than it's not something you're born with and know immediately from the day one how to play the piano, unless you're Mozart. And that's what I always felt with Luang Por Chah was he seemed so at ease with it within the container of the Vinaya. It didn't seem a struggle, or he was completely relaxed within the structure, and it was just natural. So you didn't get the impression he was keeping any rules at all. It wasn't like that was. And then, like going to England the first time, I could see he could size up situations and adapt to particular contingencies that arose that he might never encounter here in Thailand. But because it was done through mindfulness, rather than through, it's got to be like this or, it's wrong. So it's interesting to see somebody like that who's so admired here in this country. We spent the week before we came to London in Bangkok, and then all these people coming to see him and bowing, and everybody, the Thai culture, so polite, so graceful, so devoted. And I thought, that's not how it's going to be in London. So we go from Bangkok to London, and I was really impressed the way he'd tune in, he'd observe how the English did things, or he was quite interested in getting to know. He doesn't try to make everybody do it his way. So he had a certain kind of grace and greatly admired, even though he couldn't speak English. People that came really developed overnight a kind of trust and respect for him. It's years ago, I was at Tam Sang Pet, and Ajahn Chah and I were walking on top, the hill, and he was saying, Sumedho, you must be confused, because the Dhamma is all about letting go and Vinaya is about clinging. And so I do find that a paradox. And so then he said, well, when you figure that one out, you'll be okay. And this is an important thing, because the like form is this way. Like Vinaya is all about form, containment, restriction, and Vinaya and Dhamma is about letting go everything. No form, unborn, uncreated. And yet, when the Buddha was, before he passed on, Ananda said, "What do we do without our teacher? When you're gone, who?" He says, "I leave you Dhamma and Vinaya." So, and he didn't say just Dhamma, he said Vinaya also. Now this, I find it like in the West, people aren't really interested in the Vinaya, but in the Dhamma. This is one of the problems living there, I found, was they love Dhamma, but they don't, the Vinaya is something that they go along with, but they don't really understand it, or really even some, find even 5 precepts a struggle. Or think you don't even need 5 precepts, Dhamma is about letting go, being free, and so forth. So there's that. That's what people love, is Dhamma. Because it's beautiful. It has this sense of not being bound and contained and restricted and bound into forms and rules and traditions and religions and all these things that people are very critical of now in the West. And this idea of freedom, express yourself, do what you want, is very attractive option. But then where does it go? Where does it stop? And so then the form, you've got this, and this is a traditional form. It's not a form that is up for option, for negotiation. I don't like these rules, let's change them, kind of thing. It's like when you join the club, you have to, this is the categorical imperative, this is what you have, this is what you expect. They're not negotiable. So then in some ways that makes our life much more easy, because if we endlessly try to negotiate on that level, there's no end to it. It's just always this person's view and that person's feelings, and we just go on and create endless problems with each other and with the tradition and with various individual preferences and ideas. So what we do, you get accused sometimes of being old-fashioned, or I've been accused of being attached to tradition, of being, here I'm supposed to be free from attachment, and Ajahn Sumedho is attached to the Thai forest tradition. Some people think that. So, and that's how they might see it, in the way they think and interpret life. But my experience has been that it I see it as a kind of precision tool if used properly. And that's why I don't want to change it. I don't want to make it British or American or Western Buddhism. And it's got its point. It's a tradition that has managed to survive up to this moment. And so it must have a power within it, otherwise it would have been changed all over the place. Like in Buddhism, like in England, you've got every variation on the theme of Buddhism there. If you don't like this, there's other options, other groups. There's Zen, and then there's Tibetan, and there's modern psychotherapeutic Buddhism, and Vipassana without Buddha, and things like that. There's everything, all kinds of alternatives and options on the theme. So, this is why, I feel very committed to try to keep this within the the tradition, to make it available for those who see, who want to use it, who see it value. Because there's so many other, I see, like the Vipassana movement in the States is, it has a certain, there's certain admirable things about it, but it doesn't have that precision to it. It doesn't cut clearly through that ego. And if you, like they're talking about the three fetters, and that it's really, these three fetters, you can come from very good intentions, wanting to, the best for everybody in the world, and practice as a bodhisattva to help all sentient beings. But it still can be operating from the three fetters. So in this way, you actually are going to the fetters, the obstructions, right from the beginning. Not to annihilate them, but to understand them, so that they're not confusing you or blinding you. And once you really see through those, because they're artificial things. Like sexual desire is not artificial, it's part of nature, the nature of the body. Or anger, self-preservation, all this is part of the package of being a human being, being a mammal, learning to survive. It's not created by human society. But the first three fetters are all creations of society, of white languages and cultures and tribal people, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, the whole lot. These are created by human thought, human ideas. They're not given to us in nature. Your body's a natural condition, so it's not, the human body is a part of nature. Consciousness is natural. It's not, you don't create consciousness through culture. So you've got consciousness and the body as just part of nature. This realm here, this earth, this planet, the trees and the mountains and the oceans and so forth, and all the animals and the mosquitoes and the birds and whatnot, they're all involved in this sense realm of feeling, natural conditions that is what we call nature. It's not created by any individual. But the self is created by human ignorance and desire, and culture and social identities and thinking. Thinking is a creation. So then, like in the West, you find they've developed the thinking process to a high level, to logic and reason and the intellect, using these various forms of intelligent thinking, reasonable thinking, logical thinking, scientific, which is very impressive, but it's still created by human beings that have not awakened to Dhamma. They might be brilliant, on that level, but it's still it's like it did be Silabata Paramasa Viciketa. So in this direct approach of the Buddha, he gave very clear directions, do this. So it's, you're not trying to attack the ego or get rid of your sense of self, you're understanding it. And that understanding is not ego. This which is aware of my ego is not ego. But I can't, if I say I'm aware or I'm mindful or something, then it becomes ego. So you don't say anything, but you discern this state of just being present and in this wide spectrum of awareness, where it's not concentrate on any object, but just open and receptive in the moment. even though that's a natural state, but our societies tend to always make us focus on something, to engage in something around us, some object. So we don't really appreciate this mindful sati sampajanya. We have samadhi, like we learn to concentrate the mind on a reading or on some object, but to just not be concentrated on an object, but concentrated in this more wide, open way is sati sampajanya, and that's where the discerning ability, the panya, operates. That's important. It's like the thinking mind is a critical function. So it says this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, this is higher, lower. But this sati sampajanya panya is not critical. So you use this discerning. It knows the difference between self and non-self. There's a knowing. Self is like this, non-self, anatta is like this. Or worldly attachment, samsara is like this, nibbana is like this. You discern the difference. And it's not saying nibbana is better, but nibbana is like this. And then you can see, like, samsara is, if you attach to samsara, then you get whirled away into the momentum of those cycles. So when you begin to see the result of just being heedless and caught into that, then you tell them, there's no point in doing that anymore, I know better. Because sometimes in monastic life we want to be good monks, and we have ideals of being, content with little and keeping the Vinaya properly, and we have, these are ideals of monastic life, and then you can be sometimes feel hopeless because you can't live up to these ideals all the time. You can't be as good as you imagine you should be. So we can take the ideal of bhikkhu life, of monasticism, and attach to the ideal of it, and then create misery for ourselves because we feel guilty about a greed for food, or sexual desire, or anger, or jealousy, and things like this. We shouldn't have that. I'm not a very good bhikkhu because I'm jealous or greedy, and then we create these judgments about ourselves. Or, because I remember in the old days, some of the Western monks used to idealize the bhikkhu to the point where they couldn't actually do it anymore because they were always failing. They could never, be as good as they felt they should be. So they gave up. Where, I could see, I can't. I'd like to be the best and a really good monk and have unlimited compassion for all beings. On the ideal level, this is beautiful stuff. But in the vipaka kama moment, sometimes it isn't like that at all. It's like, a very selfish, very negative attitude, feelings arise, fears. But this is where, all conditions are impermanent, and so you realize everything's part, is grist for the mill, whether it's good or bad, high or low, ideal or not. And so then you find your confidence in this awareness that you investigate.